Greetings everyone, Brad here with Mild-Mannered EDC. I hope you're all doing really well out there. So today I want to do something. I don't normally do a lot of first impressions on knives, but I wanted to do a couple follow-up reviews or sort of updates on two knives in particular. And so I thought, you know what, while I'm doing it, why don't I just do a first impressions of a knife I got in recently at the same time. So hopefully you'll find that enjoyable. So you know what, actually, we'll go ahead and start with that first impressions, and then we'll move into these updates. And the first impression will be on the Monterey Bay Knives Old Guard Mini, and the updates will be on the Artisan Cutlery Arion and the Ferrum Forge Mini Archbishop. So before we get into that first impressions here on the Mini Old Guard, I just want to say thank you to everybody who subscribes to the channel. I really, really do appreciate it. If you're new to the channel or just checking this out for the first time, or even if you're just watching this and you're a regular viewer but aren't subscribed, it would be awesome if you could hit that subscribe button and show some support. And likewise, if you like the videos, give them a thumbs up. If you don't, thumbs down. It's all fair here on YouTube. So thanks very much. All right. So let's get underway with kind of this first impressions. And, you know, I'm a Monterey Bay Knives fan, have been for some time. You know, I think even early on after I bought an EZC, I was able to meet up with Sanford down in California at his knife shop at Carmel Cutlery in the town of Carmel by the Sea. And, you know, it's just, he's a cool guy, really, really nice to talk to. And ultimately just, you know, I was a fan of these. I've been a fan of Ray Laconico designs in general. And so, you know, it was, you know, it's kind of a match made sort of in heaven for me in terms of the type of knives that I'm interested in. And so, you know, I've been checking them out here and there, and they've sort of come into my collection or left my collection depending. I've liked certain models more than others. But I really did like this Old Guard version that they came out with. Well, I like the Old Guard design in general, but when they came out with a Mini, I was like, ooh, you know what? That's kind of, that's pretty mild-mannered. That's kind of speaking my language. Let me go check that out. So when they dropped, I think it was, early last week, perhaps, I went ahead and picked one of these up. So, you know, so far, I've been pretty impressed. And part of the reason I've been impressed is this really, oh, I just made that so much worse. It was this really beautiful raindrop carbon fiber. I mean, I think that's really the show on this particular knife. And, you know, assuming that's coming across pretty well on the camera, you know, it's called the Old Guard because it's kind of an old design, right? I think it's one of Ray Laconico's older designs. And you certainly could get an all-tie version. And I think my buddy KC over at Knives Fast, go check out his channel, really cool guy. He went with the all-tie version, and I was tempted by that a little bit, but I have so much tie. I have so many just gray tie knives in my collection that I really wanted to try something a bit different. And also this kind of reminded me of my original EZC a little bit. So I went with this raindrop carbon fiber. And I'm really glad I did, because it's quite beautiful. They did a really, really nice job with this. So, you know, overall, a 3-inch blade, you know, not an overly big knife here. It's a little on the heavy side, a little heavier than I expected, actually. It's about 3.5 ounces, which I know it's not heavy, but maybe just a bit more than I expected it to be. Interestingly, it's running on washers, which, you know, so many knives are running on bearings these days because people are demanding that drop shutty action and all. But the action is really, you know, deployed by a thumb stud here. Really nice action, very hydraulic, very smooth. Even if you're doing kind of the slow roll. Yeah. So the action itself, I think, is really nice. This one has a pretty hard detent, so I don't know if that's going to work in over time. I've noticed my thumb, and maybe it was just I was just playing with it a bit too much.
Giggity, giggity, giggity goo.
But my thumb, a little sore from messing with this, at least for the first several days I owned it. So a little bit there. The other thing I sort of have noticed, and this isn't the first Laconico or MBK knife that I've had this experience. In fact, I've got one over here. This is the Min Pin, also a very cool knife. In fact, this one modded by Jack Farmboy, so very cool guy. Anyways, a little bit of lock bar pressure. And what I mean by that is if you've got your fingers in the wrong spot on the lock bar, it makes this thing really hard, if not impossible, to open. So just sort of keep that in mind. This is one of those knives, I think, where you're going to have to get used to putting your fingers sort of on the clip so you know that they're sort of out of the way or whatever. So that's something I've noticed kind of early on out of the gate. Speaking of clip, this is a fantastic clip. And in fact, it's a pretty common clip for these MBK knives and Ray Laconico knives in general, but it's really a great clip. I mean, it's titanium, but look how thin. I mean, it's super flexible, slides in and out of the pocket awesome. I mean, it's not deep carry, but, there's nothing overly offensive, having that sticking out of your pocket. So, yeah, I really, really do like the clip, like the carry. I do like the action, at least the hydraulic nature of it. And, maybe that detent will, maybe soften a little bit over time. So I'll kind of get used to that, I think, a little bit. But, by and large, really a lot. In fact, I think one of these, and I was joking with a couple people on Instagram about this. This knife looks like, it's not identical, but it really reminds me of one of my favorite all-time knives, which is the Kaiser T1. And that Kaiser T1, which I've done a video, I think I did it in my Daily Banger video that I put out a while ago, talked about the T1, and I love the Kaiser T1. And this one, I think the reason I like this design so much is it's similar in that it's just sort of classic knife beauty, I think, a little bit, if you'll allow me to say that. And then you add this gorgeous carbon fiber in. Yeah, there's a lot to like here. In fact, even one of the other little details I've noticed sort of on this first impression, you've got this internalized lock bar relief. So that's pretty nice too. It just keeps this side of the scale looking pretty darn clean and nice. And obviously, who doesn't like that MBK logo? That's a classy logo by any stretch. So anyways, those are kind of my initial first impressions. It's a good size. It's a really nice hydraulic action. I like that classic drops, M390. Can't hard to argue with that. This is $200, so it's not, an insignificant price in terms of a knife. I think the bigger version is $215 maybe. And these are still available, at least at the time of this posting. So if this something looks good to you. But yeah, I mean, just the carbon fiber is gorgeous. I think some of the details on it are very nice. So in general, I'm pretty pleased with this. I'm pretty darn pleased. So at least for the time being, this will be in the collection and I'll be enjoying it. So there you go. Those are my first impressions here on, and again, I'm sorry, like I said, I don't do a ton of these first impression videos. So if that was more babble and sort of rambling than even my more normal videos, I apologize. But there you go. Those are some of my first impressions here to share with you. I'm not as refined when I'm not using my formulaic sort of classic mild-mannered review format. So there you go. Anyways, MBK Old Guard Mini, cool knife. I like it and pretty darn well done. So there you go. Look for that a full review on that coming in the future. So a couple of updates. So let's start with the Artisan Cutlery Arion. So this is a knife that I was really fortunate to be able to do a prototype review on. You can go back and check that out. In fact, I'll try to do one of those linky things up here. But, Russell, who's really great over at Artisan Cutleries, how he engages with the community is really fantastic. And, there's never any pressure or, he's happy to hear a fair review. And I think that speaks volumes about him. And I think it speaks well for the company, frankly. So, so I'm an Artisan Cutlery fan, and the prototype of this, which was an all tie version, came out, and I asked to see it, and he was gracious enough to send it to me. I fell in love with it. I mean, I loved it. It's just a really, really cool design. I talk a little bit about some of the similarities, that you might notice with a a certain Liang Ma design, but Cerberus Knives, who's the designer of this particular one. I mean, they've talked all through that, and so there wasn't any sort of weird issues there at all. But I did want to kind of just mention that again in case folks want to kind of lay into me on the comments on that. But the Arion here, I think, is just a beautiful knife. In fact, I think this is the nicest knife I've seen come out of Artisan Cutlery, personally. And I say that because the action is fantastic. So even compared to the prototype, which I really, really liked, the action on this is gorgeous. I mean, this is a flicker's dream. If you are a flicker, and not only, but thumb flicking or spidey flicking, which is my preferred, it's really gorgeous. And talk about drop shut. I mean, it's just, yeah. The blade design is clean and very attractive. They made some modifications to the original prototype in terms of where the logo is and size, etc. This is an S35VN. So there you go. The titanium side does have some micro milling. I don't know if that's going to show up too great on the camera, but I think you can see that. Some micro milling pattern there. Very nice clip, just really clean. And then they went with this, they're calling it, I think, a double coral, which I'm not entirely sure what that means, but coral being the color of micarta. Or is this micarta? Yeah, it's micarta. Or yeah. Now I'm second guessing myself. This wasn't G10, right? No, it's micarta. Double coral micarta is Brad. Yeah, and I think it turned out really, really well. I just really like that deep, rich, sort of Bordeaux color on it. So I really like this. They do offer this, I think, in a full tie version, and I think there recently was an OD green micarta version of this as well. But I went with the purple, and I like it a lot, or coral. So there you go. The other thing, a little Artisan logo right there, which I think is classy, kind of hidden out of the way lanyard loop. I mean, this is just a knife that's done excellently. And, you'd think for a knife this big and kind of tuned for a flicker detent that you could shake this thing out fairly easily, and you cannot. The detent is just perfectly dialed in. So again, I'm sounding like I'm gushing a little bit here, but this has become one of my favorite knives. It's slicey, it's beautiful, it's extremely well made, and Artisan, this is a home run from Artisan.
Get out the rye bread and the mustard this time, Grandma! It is a grand salami!
In my opinion. So if you are interested in this, I encourage you to go check one out, because I think they're pretty darn cool. All right, and I don't think I mentioned price. I think this was $200. I think this was $200. Could be a little more, could be a little less. I don't entirely remember, but it was at least a $200 plus option there from Artisan. Okay, there's kind of my first update on that. The second update and follow-up I wanted to do was on one of the smaller knives that I've really enjoyed having in my collection, and that is the Ferrum Forge Mini Archbishop. And I reviewed the sort of original Mini Archbishop when it came out, and I think the only thing I sort of knocked it on was I thought it was a little overpriced when it had the G10. I had a beige G10, and it was in that 9CR 18 MOV steel, which is a perfectly fine steel. But I think initially it was like $100 or something along those lines, or 85 or 89. I forget exactly, but it was just sort of expensive. I thought for that money. I got mine on sale at like $65 or something like that, which I thought was a bargain for the quality, made by We Knives, etc. Anyways, I had given that to actually another YouTuber, Experiencing Matthew Carlson. Go check him out. He does reviews on another one of my secret little fetishes. Let me just put it that way. I'll let you go check him out and figure out what that is. But he's a cool guy, and his videos are really fun. But at any rate, I sent this over to him, or I sent my original version over to him because I thought he would enjoy it. He lives in Brooklyn, and so it would seem like a good Brooklyn carry type knife, especially for somebody who's, I don't think, big into knives yet, but I'm hoping to get him there, so we'll see. But at any rate, this is an updated version of that in a couple of ways. One, price, it's about $110, but also comes with this really nice marbled carbon fiber, which, marbled carbon fiber can be a little hit or miss because, it can sort of look like there's some voids in there when there really aren't, at least on camera, or with the way the light catches it. It can look like you have little like pits or voids, and they're not. It's just sort of the way the light hits the marbled carbon fiber. So anyways, I liked this updated version. The other thing that was a pretty substantial update, or what I was interested in, and I think you can see it there, Nitro V. Right, so they went away from the 9CR, I think, in the most latest version, and are in these Nitro V, like the Stinger, which came out recently, which sort of had a critical acclaim, and I liked it as well. So, seeing that Nitro V in a folder, which you don't see a ton of, although I think you're seeing a bit more of it these days. Yeah, this was just a fun update for that, and typical fun ergonomic. And ultimately, I think this is one of my favorite, like I said, small knives to carry, or even, if you want to call them those fifth pocket carries. Just nice. It's just a really nice knife. So the design isn't really any different, but the materials did get a bit of an upgrade. So I did want to talk about that. And for about that $100 price, I think with the Nitro V and this marble carbon fiber, I don't have any problem with that at all. So there you go. All right. So here you go. You got a mild-mannered first impressions video and a couple of updates as well. I hope it wasn't too rambling and too sort of nonsensical. I just was kind of going off the top of my head and things that I had been noticing as I went through this. So I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it's given you a sense on particularly a couple knives that are already out, or at least have been out for a while, but you may want to check out again at any rate, especially this Ferrum Forge option. But also this first impressions of this cool, relatively new MBK, Monterey Bay Knives, Old Guard. So Old Guard Mini in this case. So with that, stay safe out there. Be mild-mannered to one another. And all the best.